All your life, you've been told that the future is something you move toward, step by step, as though it waits somewhere ahead. But what if the future isn't ahead of you at all? What if the version of you who already feels peace, love, abundance, and fulfillment isn't far away, but a frequency that exists right now, quietly present? It feels surprising because it challenges what you've been taught about time. We grow up believing in linear progress, when in truth, the future is already here. Like a radio station, you just haven't tuned into yet. The version of you that already has everything isn't becoming, it's simply being. And your work is to learn how to align with it. Imagine a radio dial. Infinite frequencies exist in the air around you. At this very moment, music, voices, signals, you cannot hear them until you tune in. The station is not created when you turn the dial. It was always there. In the same way, your future self does not wait to be created years from now. It already exists. In the quantum field, the work is not to build that self, brick by brick, but to tune into its frequency until you and that version merge into one. Think about how often you overlook this hidden self. You chase goals as though they are outside of you. You grind. You strive. You stretch the timeline endlessly forward. But every desire you hold is actually evidence of resonance. It is your current self brushing against the frequency of your future self. Desire is not lack. It is recognition. It is the signal that another version of you already lives that reality. The tragedy is not that the version is far. It's that you keep overlooking it because you're trained to seek outside rather than tune within. Here is the incomplete puzzle that hooks the mind. If that version of you already exists, why can't you step into it instantly? Why does it feel elusive, almost mocking, just out of reach? The answer lies not in time, but in frequency. You are tuned to the station of wanting, while your future self broadcasts on the station of being. Wanting and being are not the same vibration. The more you stay in wanting, the more you reinforce separation. The hidden self is overlooked because you are listening to the wrong frequency. This is where science and spirituality intersect. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in states of superposition, multiple possibilities at once. They collapse into one outcome. Only when observed, you too exist. In superposition, many versions of you, infinite timelines. Which one collapses into your lived reality? The one you tune into with your state of being. Neuroscience supports this as well. Your brain's neural pathways shape identity. When you rehearse lack, the brain wires itself to notice lack. When you embody abundance, even before evidence appears, the brain rewires to expect it. This is not fantasy. It is neuroplasticity. And the field responds to the identity you stabilize. But here's the pattern interrupt. You cannot ignore. The self you seek is not waiting in the distance. It is knocking at the door right now. Every synchronicity, every repeating symbol, every intuitive nut is that version of you trying to get your attention. The signs are not random. They are breadcrumbs from your future self, scattered along your present timeline, whispering, "I am already here, stop overlooking me." But most people miss the call. They assume the signs are coincidences, or they bury them under the noise of constant effort. They keep scanning the horizon, while the frequency they need hums quietly beneath their feet. Consider this. When you desire wealth, it's not the money itself that is calling you. It's the version of you who already lives in abundance. When you crave love, it's not a partner you're chasing. It's the version of you who embodies wholeness and intimacy. When you long for peace, it's not an escape from chaos. It's the version of you whose nervous system is already regulated, already calm. Every desire is a code, a signal pointing to the self that already has it. And every time you say, "I don't have it yet," you reinforce distance from that self. But every time you say, "I am tuning into it now," the gap shrinks. So why do you keep overlooking this hidden self? Because you've been conditioned to worship effort, to idolize time, to believe that becoming must take years of striving. The truth is more radical. Becoming is not linear. It is vibrational. The hidden self does not ask for time. It asks for alignment. You don't need to earn it. You need to tune to it. And once you glimpse this truth, it is impossible to unsee. This is where the curiosity loop opens wide. How exactly do you tune into that version of yourself? What shifts in the brain, the heart, the field must occur for you to cross the vibrational gap between wanting and being? And how can you embody that future self so completely that reality collapses into coherence around it? The answers are not distant. They are waiting in the next stage of this journey, where science and spirituality converge to reveal the frequencies of identity and the mechanics of tuning. To understand how you can tune into the version of yourself that already has what you desire, you must first recognize that identity itself is vibrational. Who you believe you are is not fixed. It is a frequency you stabilize. At any moment, countless versions of you exist in potential, like overlapping tracks of music, playing in the quantum field. The one you experience as your life is simply the station you are tuned into. Change the station, and you experience a different reality. This is not metaphor alone. It is how the mechanics of consciousness operate. At the intersection of quantum theory and neuroscience, physics has shown us that reality exists not as solid objects, but as fields of probability. At the subatomic level, particles exist in superposition, many states at once. Until observed, your consciousness acts as the observer, collapsing the wave function into one outcome. But here is the missing piece most overlook. You do not collapse reality with random thought, but with coherent identity. Identity is not just memory or personality. It is the sustained frequency of I am. The I am you embody selects which potential timeline collapses into form. When you say, "I am struggling," you align with one version. When you say, "I am abundant," and feel it coherently, you align with another. The field responds faithfully to the identity you broadcast. Neuroscience gives us a bridge to this truth. The brain is plastic. It reshapes itself according to repeated patterns of thought and emotion. When you continuously embody a state of lack, your neurons wire together around that identity, strengthening it until it feels inevitable. The brain filters your environment, showing you only what matches that state. Opportunities outside that identity pass unnoticed because your perception is tuned away from them. But when you rehearse new states, gratitude, abundance, wholeness, the brain rewires to match. Your nervous system calibrates to new patterns. This is not imaginary. It is measurable. Your identity is quite literally encoded in neural firing patterns that change as you shift states. Now consider the spiritual teachings that have echoed this long before science. Neville Goddard insisted that assumption creates reality. You must live from the end, assuming the identity of the one who already has it, not as a wish, but as a fact. The law of vibration, taught for centuries, declares that everything is energy, moving at frequency, and like attracts like. Joe Dispenza blends both science and spirituality, showing how elevated emotion, paired with clear intention, produces measurable coherence in the body and measurable effects in the field. Across all traditions, the conclusion is the same. Identity is frequency, and frequency is the key to manifestation. But here's the curiosity gap. If it is that simple, why doesn't everyone step instantly into their future self? Why do people repeat patterns, even when they know better? The answer is resistance. Most people unconsciously identify with their current state so deeply that it becomes addictive. The brain craves familiarity, even when it is painful. Neural pathways formed by years of "I am not enough" do not dissolve overnight. And so people affirm abundance while unconsciously radiating lack. They visualize wholeness while unconsciously embodying separation. The field responds, but it responds to the coherent frequency, not the words spoken. This is why trying so often fails, because the identity being broadcast is one of lack. Think of a tuning fork. Strike one, and another of the same frequency across the room begins to vibrate. If the frequencies do not match, there is no resonance. The field operates on this same principle. You cannot fake resonance. You cannot trick the field with empty words. You must become the frequency of your future self. When you do, resonance is inevitable. The field has no choice but to vibrate back, collapsing reality around the identity you embody. Psychology calls this self-concept. Every action you take, every decision you make, is filtered through the story you believe about who you are. If you believe you are someone who struggles, you sabotage opportunities unconsciously to remain consistent with that identity. If you believe you are someone who thrives, you notice and act on possibilities others miss. The outer world looks different, not because it changed randomly, but because your inner identity tuned you into a different frequency of reality. Here's the pattern interrupt you need to hold. Your future self is not out of reach. It is already alive, in the field, vibrating. Now you are not trying to create it. You are trying to tune into it. That means the distance is not measured in time, but in frequency. And frequency is accessible in this moment, through choice, through coherence, through practice. The obstacle is not that the self doesn't exist. The obstacle is that you keep overlooking it by reinforcing the wrong identity. So the science of identity frequencies reveals a simple but radical truth. You are not bound by the past, and you are not waiting for the future. You are selecting from infinite versions of yourself. With every thought, every emotion, every declaration of "I am," And this leads to the deeper paradox. The very act of wanting may keep you tuned away from the self, who already has it. That paradox unfolds in the next stage, where we explore the vibrational gap between wanting and being, and why collapsing that gap is the key to tuning into the version of you that already holds everything you seek. Desire is often misunderstood. Most people believe that wanting something intensely is the fuel that will pull it closer. They think the more they long, the more they affirm, the more they chase, the faster it will arrive. But here lies a paradox that quietly sabotages countless manifestors. Wanting and being vibrate on different frequencies. Wanting is the frequency of absence. Being is the frequency of fulfillment. And the field responds only to what you are, not to what you hope for. Think of a mirror. If you stand in front of it and whisper, smile, nothing happens. If you beg it, plead with it, wait for it, it still does not move. The reflection changes only when you smile first. Wanting is like asking the mirror to show you something you refuse to embody. Being is the act that transforms the reflection. The vibrational gap between wanting and being is the delay you experience in manifestation. And the longer you dwell in wanting, the more the gap expands. Science echoes this truth. Neuroscience shows us that when you focus on not having, your brain encodes that state as your reality. The prefrontal cortex highlights evidence of absence. Your reticular activating system, the filter that decides what to notice, scans the environment for proof that your desire is not yet here. You literally wire your brain to confirm lack. On the quantum level, the same principle applies. Observing from a frequency of absence collapses the field into outcomes that reflect absence. You think you are calling in abundance, but you are stabilizing scarcity. And yet, here's the curiosity loop. If wanting blocks being, does that mean desire itself is bad? No. Desire is sacred. Desire is the signal that another version of you already exists. But when you confuse desire with longing, you trap yourself in the frequency of not yet. The secret is to transmute desire into embodiment. Instead of saying, I want this, you shift into I am this. Instead of vibrating in distance, you vibrate in arrival. That shift collapses the gap, and reality responds, not to your words, but to your state. Spiritual teachers have always warned of this gap. Neville Goddard taught that you must live in the end to feel now what your future self already feels. Joe Dispenza explains that combining elevated emotion with clear intention allows the brain and heart to enter coherence, broadcasting a frequency that the quantum field mirrors back. The law of vibration states the same. In simpler words, like attracts like. Wanting attracts more wanting. Being attracts the thing itself. The wisdom converges. The key is not to intensify the wanting, but to collapse it into being. Consider a simple example. Imagine someone desperate for love. They declare daily, I want a partner, I want connection. But vibrationally, they are broadcasting loneliness. Every action, every thought, every emotion comes coded in absence. The field reflects faithfully, and their reality echoes back solitude. Another person, by contrast, embodies love. Before it arrives, they treat themselves with care, radiant openness, live as though love is natural and inevitable. Without forcing, they align with the version of themselves who is already loved, and the field mirrors that being. The difference is not in words spoken, but in frequency embodied. Here's the pattern interrupt. Longing feels powerful, but it is disguised weakness. It convinces you that yearning equals magnetism, when in truth, yearning often repels. The more you crave, the more you affirm the gap. The more you embody, the more the gap dissolves. This truth disrupts cultural conditioning, because we've been trained to equate striving with progress. But in manifestation, striving is often proof of distance. Being is proof of alignment. And yet here lies the incomplete puzzle. How do you embody what you do not yet see? How do you live as the self who already has it, when your senses scream the opposite? This is where the practice becomes art. You must learn to use imagination, not as fantasy, but as rehearsal. Neuroscience confirms that the brain does not distinguish. Vividly imagine experiences from physical ones. The same neural pathways light up. Imagination becomes the bridge between wanting and being. Spiritually, this is why visualization has always been emphasized. Not to daydream, but to rehearse the frequency of being, until the body believes it is real. The vibrational gap is not closed by external proof. It is closed by internal coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and body align with the state of already having, the field must reflect it. Reality is not withholding. It is waiting for resonance. You are not denied. You are delayed by the frequency of wanting. Collapse into being, and the delay dissolves. So the paradox sharpens. The version of you that already has it is not out of reach. It is out of tune. Wanting keeps you on the wrong station. Being shifts the dial. The gap is not time. The gap is vibration. And when you bridge it, manifestation is no longer effort. It is inevitability. Which leads us to the next revelation. How do you actually tune into that future self with precision? How do you embody it so fully that reality cannot tell the difference between who you were and who you are becoming? That is the next stage, where the practice of tuning becomes real, where imagination, coherence, and embodiment merge into one. There is a crucial turning point in the manifestation journey, where you realize that tuning into the version of yourself that already has it is not a mental exercise. It is an act of embodiment. You cannot simply think your way there. You cannot repeat affirmations like broken records and expect reality to shift if your body still vibrates with lack. Embodying the state of the future self means stepping into it so completely that your thoughts, emotions, and physical presence begin to mirror that version of you. Reality does not respond to your words. It responds to your state. Imagine an actor preparing for a role. A true actor does not simply memorize lines. They become the character. They adopt the posture, the tone, the emotional life of the role, until it feels real, not performed. Manifestation works the same way. Your future self is not a fantasy. It is a role already written in the field. The question is, are you willing to step into it fully? Not as performance, but as identity. When you do, the line between imagination and reality dissolves. You are no longer waiting for it. You are being it. Neuroscience reveals why this matters. The body does not distinguish. Vividly rehearsed experiences from physical ones. Studies show that athletes who only visualize practicing a movement strengthen the same neural pathways as those who physically train. The brain wires itself to embody what it rehearses. This means when you inhabit the state of your future self, feeling, breathing, walking, as though it is already true, your body encodes that reality. Now you stop waiting for external proof and start creating internal evidence. And the quantum field mirrors the evidence. Your body stabilizes. Spiritually, this has always been the teaching. Neville Goddard insisted on living in the end. Don't imagine the process. Imagine the result. Feel what it is like to already be there. Joe Dispenza calls this the memory of the future, to install the emotional signature of your desired reality now, so the field can organize events to match it. The Bible, the Tao, the Vedas all echo the same truth in different words. Faith is not belief in what will come. It is embodiment of what already is. But here's the curiosity loop. How do you know you are embodying the state, rather than just pretending? Pretending feels like strain. Embodiment feels like ease. Pretending says, I hope this becomes real. Embodiment says, this is who I am now. Pretending is brittle, easily broken by external circumstances. Embodiment is resilient, anchored in coherence, regardless of what the senses show. That is how you know the state persists, even when reality has not yet rearranged. Because you no longer depend on proof. You are living as proof. A metaphor makes this clearer. Picture a tuning fork. If you strike it, it vibrates at a specific pitch. Place another tuning fork, tuned to the same pitch nearby, and it will begin to vibrate without being touched. That is resonance. Your future self is already vibrating in the field. When you embody its state, you strike the frequency that matches it, and resonance does the rest. You do not force the second tuning fork. It vibrates because the frequency is coherent. Your reality cannot help but respond to the coherence you embody. Here's the pattern interrupt. Most people try to act their way into their future self by changing behavior alone. They try to force new habits while still identifying with the old self. This is backwards. Behavior follows identity, not the other way around. When you embody the state first, behaviors naturally shift to match. The person who identifies as healthy does not struggle endlessly with diet choices. They simply live consistently with that identity. The person who embodies abundance does not obsess over every expense. They naturally act from trust and alignment. You don't force the actions. The actions flow from the embodied state. Psychology calls this the self-fulfilling prophecy. When you believe and embody something about yourself, your subconscious guides you into choices and behaviors that confirm it. This is why embodying the future self is so powerful. It activates the subconscious to align everything else. Your outer life reorganizes around the identity you stabilize within. The more consistently you hold the state, the faster the reflection appears in your external world. Now pause and reflect. What would it look like if you stopped waiting and started embodying? If you woke tomorrow as though you were already that version of yourself, what would shift in your posture, your voice, your energy? How would you walk through your day differently? These small shifts are not insignificant. They are the anchors of alignment. The universe does not need you to force. It needs you to embody. And to anchor this truth right now, I want you to make a declaration. Not to me, but to yourself and to the field. Go to the comments and write, "I am tuning into my future self." This is not just engagement. It is frequency. When you write it, you are declaring coherence. You are signaling the field that you are no longer identifying with the version of you that is waiting. You are tuning in now, and the act of declaring anchors the vibration more deeply into your subconscious. The question now becomes, if embodiment is the key, why does the field still deliver reality in fragments, rather than in one complete leap? Why does alignment feel like a puzzle, revealed piece by piece, rather than a full download? That is the next revelation, the incomplete puzzle of effortless creation, and why it is not a limitation, but the very design of manifestation itself. By now it should be clear that manifestation is not about forcing reality, but about tuning into coherence. Yet even when you embody the state of your future self, something curious happens. Reality still unfolds piece by piece, never all at once. You glimpse signs, synchronicities, fragments of the larger picture, but the full manifestation arrives gradually, sometimes unpredictably. This can be frustrating for the mind, which demands certainty and completion. But this incomplete puzzle is not a flaw of the process. It is the design. The field reveals alignment in fragments, so you keep moving, evolving, and co-creating. Think of how a puzzle emerges. At the beginning, scattered pieces seem meaningless. You try to force them together, only to realize they don't fit. But when you relax and allow patterns to guide you, edges appear, colors align, and sections form naturally. You still don't see the whole picture, but the fragments are enough to show you progress, to keep you engaged. Manifestation works the same way. The universe rarely drops the entire completed picture into your lap. Instead, it gives you enough fragments, an opportunity here, a synchronicity there, a subtle shift in energy that confirms alignment and keeps you walking the path. The incomplete puzzle keeps you in motion. Science mirrors this in surprising ways. Quantum mechanics teaches us that outcomes emerge through probability, not certainty. Every moment holds countless possibilities, but only one collapses into form at a time. Reality does not download in bulk. It streams like a movie, revealing frame after frame. If you demanded to see the final scene before watching, the story would lose its power. The mystery would vanish. Similarly, manifestation reveals frame by frame, fragment by fragment, because it is not just about the destination. It is about who you become in the unfolding. Neuroscience adds another layer. The brain learns best in increments, not in overwhelm. Neural pathways strengthen through repetition, through piece-by-piece reinforcement. If you tried to embody your entire future self instantly, the brain would resist, overwhelmed by the gap. But when reality delivers fragments, small confirmations, gradual progress, your brain adapts, rewires, and stabilizes the new identity. The incomplete puzzle protects your nervous system from collapse and ensures sustainable transformation. Spiritually, this truth has been echoed for centuries. Ancient texts speak of receiving daily bread, just enough for the moment, never the whole storehouse at once. The Tao describes life as unfolding like water, step by step, flow by flow, never rushing to completion. Mystics remind us that faith is required, precisely because the picture is incomplete. If everything were revealed at once, Faith would be unnecessary. Growth would be shallow. And free will would be irrelevant. The incomplete puzzle is the training ground of trust. Here's the curiosity gap. Why do people resist the incomplete puzzle so fiercely? Because the ego craves control. It wants the full map, the guarantee, the certainty, before taking a step. But manifestation does not work under those terms. The field responds not to your demands for control, but to your willingness to trust alignment without evidence. Each fragment is not proof of delay. It is proof of motion. The puzzle is incomplete, not because you are failing, but because you are becoming. Consider a story. A woman longs for a new career. Instead of the full job appearing instantly, she receives fragments. A chance conversation that sparks inspiration. A book that deepens her skills. An invitation to a workshop. None of these is the complete answer, but together they form the path. Only when she looks back does she realize the fragments were the puzzle assembling itself. The delay was not absence. It was orchestration. The field was not denying her. It was aligning her step by step. Here's the pattern interrupt. The incomplete puzzle is not punishment. It is protection. It ensures that you embody the frequency piece by piece, stabilizing the identity before the full picture arrives. If the entire manifestation appeared instantly, you might sabotage it, unable to hold the coherence required. By receiving fragments, you integrate, you learn, you evolve into the self, capable of sustaining what you once only desired. The puzzle is incomplete by necessity. So what does alignment without effort mean? It means you stop trying to force all the pieces into place at once. You trust the fragments as enough for now. You recognize that each synchronicity, each subtle shifting, is part of the larger picture forming. You stop demanding completion before you move, and you move with what you have. And paradoxically, when you stop trying to complete the puzzle, it completes itself around you. This is the secret few understand. The universe withholds nothing. It only delivers in a way that ensures coherence. Alignment without effort is not about passivity. It is about trust in fragments. You embody the state, and you allow the puzzle to assemble in its timing. The field never denies you. It only prepares you. And this leads us to the final revelation. What happens when you stop playing with fragments and start living as the complete version of you? Now what shifts? When you no longer look for confirmation, but embody the certainty that the version of you who already has it is here. That is the closing step of this journey. The moment where you stop tuning in and start living as the frequency itself. There comes a point when tuning into the version of you that already has it is no longer an exercise or a practice. It becomes your way of being. You stop rehearsing the future and start embodying it as your identity. This is the highest level of manifestation, the place where effort dissolves and life itself becomes an extension of your coherence. You no longer search for signs, because you have become the sign. You no longer wait for confirmation, because you radiate certainty. You live not as someone trying to align with the future, but as the living frequency of the future itself. This shift is subtle but profound. It is the difference between acting as though and simply being. When you act as though, there is still a trace of pretending, a small residue of separation. But when you live as the version that already has it, there is no gap left to close. You breathe differently. You walk differently. You carry yourself with a quiet knowing that reality must reflect. And reality does, because the field has no choice but to mirror coherence. Science confirms this in ways we can measure. Heart-brain coherence produces electromagnetic fields that radiate order into the environment. When you consistently embody elevated states, gratitude, love, wholeness, you generate measurable patterns of stability. These patterns influence not only your body, but the field around you. Studies suggest that coherent states affect probability itself, nudging outcomes toward harmony. You are not waiting for reality to deliver. You are radiating the frequency that collapses it into form. Spiritually, this has always been the final teaching. The mystics declared, "Be still and know, not try, not chase, not plead, be." Neville Goddard insisted that the wish fulfilled must be assumed so completely that it becomes your natural identity. Joe Dispenza calls it becoming your future self. Now, these are not poetic phrases. They are instructions for coherence. When you embody the version of you that already has it, you stop trying to manifest and start living as the manifestation. Here's the curiosity loop that deepens the mystery. If you already are that version, why does life still surprise you? Because even when you embody coherence, the field continues to expand. You never arrive fully, because there are always new frequencies, new possibilities, new versions of you, waiting to be tuned into. Living as the version that already has it does not end the journey. It elevates it. You step onto a higher frequency, and from there, entirely new desires emerge. Desires that are not born of lack, but of expansion. Think of it like climbing a mountain. At the base, you strain and struggle, desperate for progress. Halfway up, you see glimpses of the summit. But when you finally embody, the climber who belongs on the peak, the climb itself changes. You move with ease, with rhythm, with trust in your footing. And when you reach the summit, the view does not signal an end. It reveals more mountains beyond, calling you higher. Living as the version that already has it is not about finishing the puzzle. It is about realizing you are the puzzle eternally, unfolding into greater coherence. Here's the pattern interrupt. You do not need to wait for permission to live this way. You do not need external proof. You are allowed to embody your future self now, without evidence, without validation. And paradoxically, when you stop waiting, the evidence appears. The universe is not holding back. It is waiting for you to stop holding back. The moment you decide to live as the version who already has it, you collapse the distance. The mirror responds instantly. And this is where I want to leave you with an invitation, not just an ending. You've walked through the paradox of effort, the science of resistance, the vibrational gap, the art of embodiment, the incomplete puzzle. Now you stand at the threshold of becoming. The choice is simple. Will you continue to want? Or will you begin to be? Will you live as someone waiting for proof? Or as someone embodying the proof? The field is not asking for more effort. It is asking for coherence. If you feel the call to deepen this practice, to move from inspiration into integration, the next step in anchoring the frequency you've been glimpsing here. Because the truth is, you are not waiting for the version of you that already has it. That version is waiting for you. And the moment you stop trying, stop longing, stop pretending, and start embodying, the version of you that already has it, is no longer hidden. It is alive, breathing, and radiating through you. You are not moving toward it. You are becoming it, ready to manifest effortlessly. Subscribe now and join our Quantum Manifest Hub, where we stop chasing reality and start resonating with it.